I've been asked by a number of people to explain a process that I've come up with, or at least my concept, of what's called finding ground zero. The comfortable setup, the situation where you are the most relaxed in your playing that I feel that anyone needs to be. Being relaxed is really what it's all about. I have to tell you that. I was more into the flash at one time of the setups. The cymbals way up here and, the tom-toms like boom down like that. And it has its place. But I find at this stage of the game, the more relaxed that I am in my playing, the more fluid I become. And since I really have started to believe in the concept of playing good time and playing good feel and making sure that everything is working at its best, I figured I'd give you this little exercise in finding ground zero. Now, when I start a setup, it isn't like I start positioning things and kind of hope for the best. The first thing I do is to find the correct level of the up and down of the seating. Now, I used to sit really, really low at one time because I found out that my center of gravity was quite low, and I was able to actually gain a foothold on how I was playing, sitting kind of down, not necessarily crunched down, but sitting down kind of low. The problem with that is that any type of either too high or too low. Now, I'm using it to where my legs are parallel to the floor, maybe a little bit above, but mostly parallel to the floor. But the real essence of being comfort is when you're sitting too low, if you're down too low, your muscles are contracted, they're tense. If you're sitting up too high, your muscles are extended. That means they're always in use at some particular point in time. And I got to tell you, if they're always either clenched or in use or always flexed, it creates not only a choppy type of playing, but it also tires you out a lot quicker. And I found out that there were nights that when I was playing really low, that my legs would be actually throbbing by the end of the night because as you're playing, especially you guys with the double bass things that are going on, if you're playing constantly all night long, having to pound out some heavy beats, having your muscles flexed when there should be more at rest is even a challenge. So I actually keep myself fairly low, but not low enough to where my muscles are flexed. But I do notice that I want to be able to lift any particular limb. I don't know whether you can see I'm doing that. I'm actually lifting each leg, and I can actually sit comfortably without having to, with both legs up in the air, without having to rebalance myself. Some of my students have found that I've been watching them try to play and seeing how things are going, and I see them constantly shifting while they're playing. And I've asked them, what are you doing? And they're telling me that, and I can see that because of the movement of how they're positioned with their legs and their feet, it has created a problem to keep in balance. You have to remember, even if you're playing single bass with hi-hat, much less double bass, you have to be able to lift these legs and move each of these legs both simultaneously or alternating without having to worry about a balance position. So remember, the first thing to do when finding ground zero is find out your height. By that, I mean sit comfortably on the floor on your seat with your legs on the floor, and make sure they're either just right parallel to the floor or just a little bit up more from that. There you're going to have to remember that they're going to be placed on the pedals. So it's going to be in a comfortable, relaxed position. Now, when it comes to how far away things are going to get, I first go with A, my bass drum, and B, not necessarily my snare drum, but my hi-hat. I find the comfortable position to where I'm not so close that I'm constantly creeping up on the bass drum. At the same time, I want to find out where a comfortable position, just where my legs are spinning normally, in balance, without a problem. Now, once I've gained that position, I don't want the bass drum to be in so close that my leg is kicked back in order to play to where my knee is actually pushed forward. Why? Once again, it's flexing the muscles. I want to keep my muscles relaxed when I'm not having anything to play. Same thing goes for the hi-hat. If my hi-hat is so close because I've been bringing it back so I can avoid playing things, clicking sticks and things like that, it's creating tension in the leg. We don't want tension for the rest state. So we want to make sure that you're fairly relaxed and fluid, having no problems as far as balance goes. Now, once we've gotten that, and it's also, I try to keep my feet not necessarily flat foot. If I'm constantly pushing down, I know a lot of guys bury their pedals into the drum, and that's all well and good, but for me, I try to keep the beater off the pedal a little bit and keep my feet relaxed. Same thing goes for the hi-hat. My closed hi-hat position is approximately 2/3 of the pedal is sticking at an angle like this. What that does is that it gives me a chance to be able to bounce and click pretty hard, but at the same time, I don't have to push my foot all the way down in order to get a closed hi-hat, simply because by pushing it all the way down, for the way I'm built, unfortunately, it stresses my leg to push all the way down. So I'm actually pushed closed right now, and my foot is actually sitting at this type of angle. So I'm comfortable. I'm sitting fairly in balance, level, accurate. My drum, my bass drum, and my hi-hat have now been put in front of me to where my legs are open and relaxed. I've got control over both feet. I can now start to position the other key elements of ground zero. There are pockets of patterns that I tend to do, and you will find that there is going to be a comfortability factor if I'm playing different patterns across the drums. Now, for myself, on my particular setup, I'm using 2 rack toms and 2 floor toms. I have changed my setup lately to accommodate a few things. One, let's talk about the snare drum. The snare drum is not jammed all the way close to me. I don't want my arm to be in a flexed position. I don't want it to be all the way back here in order for me to play, because what it does is it flexes this muscle. So I have my snare drum basically at just below my belt line, but not so much that I'm actually going to crack the snare drum or crack my leg with a stick. I play, for the most part, traditional grip. So I'm playing in a comfortable state that's kind of flat, where if I were to just drop my arms, the center of the drum is right there with my sticks. I'm able to play in a relaxed position and still be in a relaxed position with the feet without having something that's too close so that my arms are having to come back, or too far away that my arms are constantly stretched. I make sure I'm in a completely relaxed state, and my snare drum, which is my key for the whole upper drum series, is positioned accordingly. At the same time, a lot of people have problems positioning their hi-hat because of clicking sticks, especially if you're playing with a matched grip. Even at matched grip, my hi-hat's positioned out further enough so that even if I'm coming up with the sticks, I'm able to not click the sticks. They're not crossed, believe it or not. They're not locking up in this position, but they're just in a relaxed position, even from the upper part. As I'm playing, or with traditional grip, to get enough power, still keeping my sticks not necessarily crossed up. I'm not having problems clicking my sticks together. And at the same time, I can bring the hand over to the hi-hat. I'm able to fluidly move back and forth without having to put my shoulders up, to actually play. I find that now I've got more stamina because I'm not exerting all the muscles in the upper part of the body. I exert them when they need to be exerted, when I'm actually blasting through or really pounding in a heavy beat. But at the same time, I don't have to do that for all of my playing. I try to keep as relaxed as possible. And I used to watch these guys like Gadd and Weckel and Rod Morgenstern and things like that. I'd see these guys are playing like fluidly. Go watch a video of Gavin Harrison, man, when he's sitting there and he's playing all these intricate patterns, and it looks like he's just moving fluidly. And I found out that's really the key of being able to play smoothly and correctly. So I'm constantly relaxed, and I have my snare drum in front of me, and now it comes time to find the rest of ground zero. Now I have a number of patterns that I do. This is just specific to me. One that I find that I do constantly is a somewhat of a triplet pattern that I do between my snare drum, my floor tom, and my upper rack toms. Now, one of my upper rack toms, and I will tell you this just changed for me, is now positioned on the left side of my snare drum. Let's say at least my rack toms are actually the snare drum that's cutting them directly in half. But the thing that really got to me in this last time in actually finding out a more comfortable position was watching Jojo Meyer's video. He made sense to me, not only a lot of things, but one specific thing. As far as the placement of the drums, take a look at my upper toms. My upper toms are only 4 or 5 inches above my snare drum. But at the same time, the one key element, and some people agree with this and some people don't, is that for now, they're almost flat. Now, they are not flat to where they're completely flat like this, so I'm actually clicking a lot of rim. No, I'm not doing that. I've got them actually tilted in just a little, but they are down. I mean, let's face it, look at the level that we're playing at. This is actually coming to this level for my uppermost rack toms right here. The key here is I'm using as little effort to get around the drum as I possibly can. Now, I am not raising my arms up. I'm not having to stretch forward to play. I'm trying to keep as compact as I possibly can. My floor tom right here is basically, you're not seeing me have to lean this way or that way. We're actually at the same lean, and right now my sticks are playing in the center of my floor tom. And if I were to go back to my snare drum, we're right here again. And by listening to JoJo, when he was talking about the drum attack, the stick rebound is now coming off the head full strength, as opposed to when my toms were in this position and I was getting more of a glancing blow. Now, the second part of the ground zero is the lower tom section. And I used my second upper tom to kind of be positioned enough to lead into the lower section. It brings such a fluidity to the entire lower setup that even when I'm not playing snare drum and bass drum, I can actually do certain things that I've never been able to do before because now they're positioned correctly. So with this type of relaxed setup, I said, well, we need to be able to play cymbals. And I can tell you, and as you can see, my open, let's start with the ride cymbal. My ride cymbal is constantly, if I'm in this position, just like it is. My whole first position, where's it going to normally be? Flip the stick over, and I'm right there, right on this cymbal. Look at where we are. Look at where I am with my snare drum. I'm ready to play at the same level, just by flipping the stick out. I'm at my ride cymbal level. At my upper body, I'm still not raising anything above my normal, relaxed chop level. Now comes time for crashes. Everybody likes the big flashy crashes. Woo! Man, I used to do that when I was rocking and rolling. Now that everything is that much lower, why waste the energy of putting them up here when I can just... As you can see, even my China, my accent, my go-to accent cymbal is at a comfortable reach all the way around. Ride cymbal, crash cymbal, and my go-to China. So whether you've got big drums, small drums, medium drums, big cymbals, small cymbals, crash cymbals, lions and tigers and bears, oh my. You can get there if you really analyze your ground zero. Until next time.